All right, guys. Sorry for the delay. I was still setting up some things around here. I actually landed in Birmingham like 5 hours ago or six. No, that's not true. Around noon. And yeah, so I wasn't really sure if I was going to stream today, but I was like on my way back from Hong Kong. I was like, Kyle, ship it. We're just gonna do it. So today's stream, we're going to be covering Pro Tour LA. That was a little bit of a while ago, but I haven't really talked about any of the matches there, and I think there's some interesting stories there. Also, going to talk about my time in Hong Kong as well as in Phuket. And then we're also going to talk about the state of Warriors now that Dromai has LL'd. That is actually going to be a very, very, very big topic because I get a lot of questions. The number one question I've gotten in the last week or so is, Josh, can you update your Dory list? Josh, can you update your Bolton list? Josh, what do you think about the Olympia specializations? Josh, do you still hate Kasai? Etc. 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 So we're gonna try to cover all those things. We're gonna try to give a succinct answer. All right, so while people are still filtering in, we will take a look at chat. Chat, you're going to be very, 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 very important today because I've been traveling for like the last 20 something hours, and I am jet lagged, and yeah, so I am going to need your help to power through today's stream. But it is good to be back. I've missed streaming. It's been, I think I missed like 3 or 4 weeks. All right, so Curtis says, "Hi, Josh. Please encourage more warriors to join the game." Okay. Max needs more favorable matchups. Ah, I see your motive now. Yeah, Max is pretty good against a lot of the warriors. The only warrior deck that I think is good into Max is Combo Bolton. There's a lot of heroes that were suppressed by Dromai that I think are going to rise up, and they all are pretty decent against Warrior. Azuri, Teklovasin, Riptide, Max. A lot of the fringe decks are pretty good. I don't care what LSS claims. Josh is the real Pro Tour champion. Oh. Thanks. Congrats on the great PT run. Thank you. Speaking of PT run, I'm very, very glad. So I just got back. I've been unpacking my bags and stuff like that. And I'm a very, very light traveler. I don't like to take a lot of stuff. So, but so normally when I go to events, I literally just carry a backpack. Like, I do not take a carry-on, even if I take a flight, because you know, you fit your deck box in there, a couple sideboard cards, a couple changes of clothes, and that's really all you need to go to an event. But I was like, okay, I'm going to Hong Kong, so I had a carry-on, I had a personal item, and then I got this. And this kind of threw a wrench in my plans because I was like, okay, I perfectly planned out all the storage in my suitcase, but then LSS gave me this. This is well, now it's sitting over there, but this is, let's put it back in. This is the trophy that they're doing. So let's see if we can get that in there. Yeah. So apparently they didn't do this for the other Pro Tours. So this is kind of cool. Like, this is a memory, let's just put it that way. So it says Pro Tour quarterfinals, Los Angeles, USA 2024, Legend Story Studios. I'll take a picture of it later if you guys want to see more details. But yeah, so this is the biggest first world problem. I understand this is like the biggest first world problem. It's like, oh no, Josh, you have to keep your trophy in your suitcase. Poor you. Well, that took a decent chunk of my suitcase, so but that's okay. Uh Damien, what's up, man? You're in the chat. Bro, we finna be here for 6 hours with that agenda. That is, well, if it takes 6 hours, it takes 6 hours. But yeah, that on the docket. We're gonna talk about Pro Tour LA. We're gonna talk about Hong Kong. We're gonna talk about Phuket, and we're gonna cover all the new Warrior hotness. And one of the interesting things is that now Warriors meta, man. That quote from, I think it's The Dark Knight. We have now lived long enough to become the villains. You live long enough, you either die a hero or see yourself become the villain. Oh yeah, I guess we should also talk a little bit about ProQuest because those are going on right now. Curtis says, managed to win my ProQuest with Max. Gonna be going to Amsterdam. Well, congratulations on that. Amsterdam is a very cool city. So we can hang out there. Prism coming out now. Yes, Prism is definitely on the up and up. But I think Prism could actually be handled fairly easy with one of the Warriors in particular. I guess I'll just quickly sum it up. Like, Bolton destroys Prism. 1, you're aggressive. So you put Prism on a clock. 2, you have pretty good defenses. You have 3 blocks, you have armor. Erudition doesn't hit unless they have a combat trick. 3, you have 7 power poppers, not 6 power poppers. 4, you could destroy Library of Solana, arguably the easiest in the game. Your deck has a ton of yellow cards, so if they ever try to, I don't even think if you're a Prism player, you don't even play Library of Solana against Bolton. Raiden destroys the auras, so you can block your whole hand and swing at Genesis. That's a very, very good play. 6, you can escape the ALS loop with Spirit of Arena and Lumina Ascension. And 7, Prism cannot block you at all. Prism has all non-blocks plus attack action cards. So it's a no armor. Like, Bolton destroys Prism. If Prism ever becomes meta, the balance of justice in this case will be Bolton, Breaker of Dawn. Sir Bolton, Breaker of Dawn. Ethnosnoke. I've listened to Josh for 6 hours a day. Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Josh Loud suffering from success. Yeah, my bad. Was cheering you on from the UK all PT weekend. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Show off the black text. Oh, where is that even? Well, I opened some black tech whispers in my gold foil. So I was gonna try to trade if I could, but I couldn't do that yet. But that's okay. Actually, Assassin does interest me quite a bit. So we'll definitely be trying out new in the new set. So that'll be cool. Hope you've enjoyed Tamil New Year over the Chinese New Year, now it's Tamil New Year. Oh man. It's gonna be like the middle of August. It's gonna be New Year's still. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just looking. I just got so much stuff here. Where did I even put my? I'll have to find them later. We'll have to figure it out. But yeah, I actually just looking around. I realized like how much cardboard I packed in my suitcase on my way back. Like, my suitcase is literally half clothes, half cardboard. Because I had a lot of like my Magic the Gathering Commander decks in Hong Kong, and so I actually brought some of them back. And yeah, I think I'm just sleepy, but I don't actually know where my gold foils are. That's actually a good question. Where are they? We'll figure it out. They're here somewhere, I presume. Uh, okay. What did I want to do? Guys, like I said, today is going to be a kind of a rough day because I am running on less sleep and I'm jet lagged. Okay, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is these things. LSS, if you're watching, keep doing these things. This is really cool. So, this first happened at Pro Tour Baltimore. So, I don't know if you can see this. It says Pro Tour Baltimore. These are basically the wristbands that are given to the competitors so that like they can, there's not a lot of security, but like you're supposed to have this to enter the play area, right? But these also like double as great souvenirs. I think I saw Daniel, the guy that was in top 8 from Spain. Very very cool guy. He was like wearing all 3 of these. I was like, oh okay, that's a pretty good resume if you have like Pro Tour Worlds. I don't know if I can't remember if they did it for Worlds, but Pro Tour Baltimore was the first one. And then this one here is from, let's see. Yeah. This is from the National Championship Las Vegas. So this was US Nats 2023. So that was cool. And then of course, most recently we got the Pro Tour Los Angeles. So these are really cool. I think that's a good idea. Keep doing them. Yeah. As cool as having the playmats be like, okay, yeah, Pro Tour 1, Pro Tour 2, Pro Tour 3. Uh, these are much more convenient. I actually had to leave a bunch of my playmats in Hong Kong because I didn't have enough room. But I'll go back and get some of them later. Prism is coming up with 10 wins week 1 ProQuest. Will other warriors survive besides Bolton? Well, I think Dory has enough speed to deal with Prism. I'm worried about Kasai and Olympia though, to be honest. All right. I was rooting so hard for Dromai to win the PT until I saw you make top 8. Priority shifted real fast. Well, it's all meant to be, I guess, with Prism LLing, a lot of those points came from Pro Tour weekend. All right, let's dive into Pro Tour. So I have with me my 34-cent Walmart life pad, and we're gonna try to reconstruct the games by looking at the life and all that. So, because it has been a while, but I still remember a bit about things, but this life pad is going to help fill in a lot of the gaps. So, all right, let's start story time here. So, let's see here. So it's the 16th of come on mouse. Come on mouse. Okay, 16th of April right now. So Pro Tour was 22, 23, 24, right? And then, 22, 23, 24, and then... Or was it? Yeah, 22, 23, 24. It has to be. Okay. So, normally for Pro Tours, I like to get in early. I like to get some drafts in. I just like to be at the venue just in case, travel delays or whatever. Especially if it's international. For Lille and for Barcelona, I did get in fairly early. But this was actually one of the different Pro Tours for me. Like, this was just get in, get out. I basically arrived Thursday afternoon, like right before the banquet. Got into LAX, went downtown, and the banquet. Let's see what happened at the banquet there. So that's when they released the trailer for the next set. So that was pretty cool. Got to hear the keynote and all that. James White always does a great job with those. I remember I was at the vendor. I was thinking about buying some cards. Let me. Where's my Pro Tour deck list? Let's see. So there was some cards I was actually missing the day before the tournament. Um, I was actually missing Hold the Line and Runner. So I had to go peruse the vendors who set up shop on Thursday. So that is a cool thing about Pro Tour, is that the vendors are vending on Thursday, so you can pick up some things. And so yeah, for those of you who know me, you know that I play with a full foil deck. So I was like looking for foil Hold the Line, foil Runner, and I managed to find them. That was great. My friend also was I had a play set of vanilla Command and Conquerors, and he just so happened in his trade binder to have a play set of rainbow foil Command and Conquerors. So I actually bit the bullet, finally upgraded my CNCs to foil. So now we have a full foil deck, so that's quite nice. But basically, it was kind of funny because I was like running around the hall trying to get some stuff. I think I needed a foil cleave as well. And I was like, well, I don't really want to show people that, because I was locked at that moment on Hatchet Dory, right? I was like, well, I don't. If people see Josh Lau buying a foil cleave, like they're gonna know I'm on something weird, right? Uh, Even Runner kind of gives it away. Hold the Line doesn't give it away much, but I was like, yeah, so I was like, and I didn't have a deck box with me, so I just bought the cards, and I went up to my friend. I'm like, hey, can you like hide these in your deck box? Give them to me later. And he's like, yeah, sure. So that's what we did. We tried to secretly buy all these specific warrior foils or rainbow foils. So that's what we did. No fabled CNC. I just like the vanilla rainbow foils. Like they have extended art Iron Song responses. I just run the regular rainbow foils. I just prefer everything to be slightly blingy, but not like over the top blingy. Like I've never been. I just use rainbow foil for everything. That's just how I am. I'm kind of weird. Okay, so we we go to sleep. We wake up. We come back. Day one, nerves at an all-time high. I have a fitness watch that like tracks my heart rate, and the week before Pro Tour, my heart rate was through the roof compared to like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then after the Pro Tour, it like went back down as well. So even though I didn't I was like, oh, I've been to so many Pro Tours, I've been to so many World Championships. What, this is just another Tuesday, right? But I think internally I was quite stressed, especially on the release of a warrior set. There's an expectation, like, well, if you're gonna do well, you gotta do well now, right? If you don't do well now, when are you gonna do well, right? So there was some burden internally on me, I think. And that's why my heart rate was so high during the weekend. Okay, so let's use our notepad. So round one of the Pro Tour, we get matched up against a Phi from, I think, Australia or New Zealand. I think he was from Australia. And I'm like, okay, this is a little bit unusual, but round one you can get paired into anything. And this guy is on a spicy Phi deck list. Like, he is on the Phoenix Form combo deck, or as is referred to locally as Stripper Phi. Stripper Fi basically will burn all their equipment on one turn, and for him, that turn was turn two. So he went first, arsenaled an Art of War, and then proceeded to go off on his giant ass combo with a bunch of Phoenix Flames. And I had Balance of Justice. I had 4 blocking cards. And I remember I used every single card in my hand, Balance of Justice, the draw from Balance of Justice, and my armor. And I still took like 20 damage on turn 2. So I was like, it's literally, yep. I think, yeah, looking at the life total, I think I was at 23 after turn 2. Of course, he blew his whole load, right? Like he did everything that his deck wanted to do. Like he used all his equipment and all that. And that was I remember that I was like, "Oh god, is this how my Pro Tour is going to be?" I get mega high rolled on turn 2 of round 1. And then we just say, "Okay, all right. You used all your equipment, you did your giant ass combo. This was the equivalent of like a triple Lumina on turn 2 as Bolton." I was like, okay, that's fine. We keep a clear mind. I was like, okay, this is like combo Fi. Combo Fi is not as consistent as normal Fi, and we just got to get our Valiant Dynamo value. We drag the game out as long as we possibly can. And that's what we do. We grind and grind and grind. And the life total here, I end up dropping to 1. I remember there was a situation at the end of the game where I'm like, okay, if I drop to 1, I could get multiple cards out of his hand, and then he could basically strike back with 1 card, and I have Dynamo plus a card, and then that game state favors me very heavily because I have Dynamos plus I have 3 blocks and he has 2 blocks. And eventually we get there with like 5 or 6 minutes on the round timer. Crazy game. Yeah. Okay, round 2. This is actually one of the sloppiest games I've ever played in my life. Round 2. If you're my opponent from round 2, I am so sorry. I was a complete potato during this game. So basically, I get paired into a Dromai. And I'll be honest, guys, with this deck list, with the Hatchets list, I think I had 40 games of practice. And I had 0 games of practice on the deck IRL. Literally, Nathan played more IRL games of Hatchet Dory than me. And basically, against this Dromai, like, there were 2 turns of the game that were really, really sloppy. There was one turn where I was like calculating, okay, if I do this, do this, do this, do this, I could clear these things. And I go to do that, and I basically shortcutted it. And basically because of Yendurai, the ability of Yendurai doesn't count as a hit, so I didn't actually trigger the Dory ability. So that whole turn falls apart. And then I don't realize how cleave works, this is really, really bad. Actually, part of me hates cleave even more now because I've played with it as it is intended to be played as, and it's not very good. Cleave. So basically, I go to attack him, and I have the attack reaction, and I thought that it cleaves the whole damage. No, it just cleaves the portion of damage that is dealt to the hero. And so I end up like cleaving 3 damage to a 4 health dragon, and it's just a real disaster. And that game was actually kind of close, even though I made 2 giant mistakes. But we end up losing that 6-0 there. So is what it is. Okay, round 3, we play against Dory. We play against Arya. And this is a this is really tough match for Domblade Dory. I think Hatchet Dory just has so much defensive tools that Dawnblade Dory is going to struggle. Plus, when you play Dawnblade Dory into somebody that knows how Dawnblade Dory operates, it's very tough. I do think she had a really, really cool build, though. It involved cards like Dust Path Pilgrimage, Iron Song Determination, Route. So really trying to get that triple hit in. I thought it was a cool deck build, but that's very, very, very favored for Hatchet Dory. So we take that one pretty comfortably. Round 4, we play against Rhea on Prism. And like I said, guys, I only had 40 games of... I only played 40 games with the deck. So I actually did not have a single rep against Prism. So I'm like, oh god, I have to play against Prism, where my brother's a illusionist main, and I've talked to him a little bit about Prism, and basically he was like, basically if you make a mistake defensively against Prism, or even conceptually against Prism, you're in a lot of trouble. So I was just like, okay, we just have to understand what's going on at all times, be aware of like the tricks, the halo, and all that, and basically it comes down to a point where Rhea is trying to land an erudition with the attack reaction pump, but I have just enough. I think I drew something off Balance of Justice, and I had the D-React ready for that, and basically from then on, I was just able to pressure the life total down, and we got there. Okay, so we go into draft 3 and 1. So we take those. And draft was actually kind of interesting because I started off... Well, I knew I was going to be drafting Warrior or I was going to be drafting Brute. And it was very, very obvious to me that the person on my right was playing Brute. So I'm like, all right, we will play Warrior. And I was like, you know what? From my testing, people have defaulted to Kasai. So I was like, okay, we'll try to stay open for Warrior, but we'll try to like take the Olympia cards if possible. So we'll focus a little bit more on attack reactions and wagering and 3-for-7s. And so we do that. We draft a pretty good Olympia deck. We actually get past a Galea in pack 3. And it ends up that there's only 2 Warriors at the table. So we have a pretty cracked deck. We beat Reinhardt, we beat a KO, and we beat another KO. The deck quality is just really, really, really high. I don't know what else to tell you. So we end the day 6-1. We're feeling pretty good. And yeah, so go have dinner. In LA, there's a place called Sugarfish. That was excellent. Went there with 2 of my friends. We were actually supposed to go as like a larger group, but that place is more of like a smaller table, more intimate dining experience. But yeah, if you're in LA looking for great sushi, go get the omakase menu from Sugarfish. Okay. So draft number 2, nothing too special. We end up 2-1. I think I played Kasai, I think. But I remember the only notable game was that the first game, we have to take a very, very risky line where we keep all of our cards and hope that they don't block and we can get there with 3 attack reactions. But that play was very, very telegraphed, so we ended up losing that. All right, so round 11 starts, and I sit down. We're around table... It was either table 8 or table 16. We were somewhere around there. And I sit down for round 11. They say, all right, welcome to round 11, guys. You may begin. And I was like, okay, where's my opponent? I sit there and I'm like, this is very weird. Like, to be so high up at the tables and for your opponent to not show up, something major has to be wrong, right? And so the judge is just kind of standing there, like, and then eventually the judge is like, your opponent lost their deck. And I'm like, what? What do you mean he lost his deck? So apparently he misplaced his deck, had to go get it from the lost and found and all that. And I was just like, well, not like this. Let's actually have a game. I don't want a free win at the Pro Tour. I don't know. That just doesn't feel right. So eventually he sits down a little bit late. Because he notified the judge beforehand that he was like looking for his deck, they didn't give him a penalty. And we were able to play our game. Very, very nice guy. He was on Prism as well. And I don't remember too much about the game, but I remember being able to chunk him for quite a bit of life while he tried to set up some things on the board. But we just basically played it like we played against Rare. We just was aggressive enough, and we maintained, we cleared the board just enough so things were okay. Round 12, we play against Levia. This was actually on stream, so if you want to watch it back, you can watch that. During the match, I watched it back, and I actually realized I made a mistake because I forgot how Levia works. The Levia the Blasphemous transformation. I had the ability to put him down to 13 and then cancel all that out, but I didn't do it. Ethan even commented about that on stream, that that was a very, very big misplay. But we still got there. We were quite far ahead during the whole game. Yeah, even though we didn't deny the transformation, still was a fairly clean game. All right, round 13, we ended up playing against the Danish guy that was in top 8. I think his name was Sebastian. He was on KO, so this was a win and in. At this point, I am 10-2. So I know, like, if I win this one, I'm basically locked for top 8. And I don't really remember much about this game, but he, yeah, this is one of the blurry games. A lot of these are actually blurry games. I'm sorry, guys, but he ended up taking that one. Round 14, we play against Noah. This was also on stream from the Runaways. And yeah, this was on stream. I think he drew pretty poorly. I also think he waited a little too long and didn't embrace some of the riskiness of the class. So yeah, we ended up taking that one, and it was a great sigh of relief, because I knew based on my breakers that, like, I win this, I'm in. I don't win this, I'm out. And I got to watch that game back and see the end of the game, see the guys from Blue Pitch coming over to congratulate me and everything. That was really, really nice. So yeah, we made top 8 of Pro Tour, and there's a lot of procedural things that they do at the end of day 2 if you make top 8. I didn't know about this. I just figured this out because I top 8'd, right? And they're like, okay, we got to go take all these pictures, and then we have to give you guys the deck lists for everybody in the top 8. We need you to confirm that your deck list was printed correctly, and do some interviews and stuff like that. And so all that takes like an hour or so. And so we end up leaving with the guys, and we're like, okay, let's try to get something relatively quick, and then let's go test some. Because I knew my matchup, I had the deck list. I was like, okay, let's go practice this Dory mirror. We were going to get ramen, but we ended up wandering into Fogo de Chao. Fogo de Chao, a great TheCardGuyz tradition. There are 3 places that we like to eat as the TheCardGuyz. We like to go to Korean barbecue. We like to go to Hot Pot. We like to go to Brazilian steakhouses. And anytime we could do that, we're really, really happy. So we We eat at Fogo. Great as always. If you guys haven't had a chance to go to Brazilian Steakhouse, I recommend doing that. It is quite an experience. Uh, Funnily enough, I thought we got like the worst seat in the whole restaurant, but it actually turned out to be the best seat. So normally, if you get seated like right next to the kitchen, like literally right next, like I leaned backwards, I could see inside the kitchen, like that close to the kitchen. At a normal restaurant, that's bad, right? Or if you get seated next to the bathroom, that's also bad, right? But getting seated next to the window or the kitchen at a Brazilian steakhouse means every single like skewer that comes off the line hits your table first, and the guy has like the whole thing. You could get exactly the rarity that you want and everything. So if you could get a kitchen side table at a Brazilian steakhouse, go do it. All right, let me check something here. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. So, we go back to the hotel, we start testing. We have to proxy like 80 cards basically because we don't have two Dory decks uh at the ready. And so Nathan starts playing games with me, and we quickly realize, based on the deck configurations, my deck is a heavy underdog. Not having Tunic is massive in the Warrior Mirror. Um, because you're doing so much blocking, you're basically never hitting with grains. Um, and neither deck has a way to shuffle, and there's only a limited amount of attack reactions. So the decks are very, very likely to hit fatigue. And we basically devised a plan where, like, after we played 5 games, I lost every single one of the games. And eventually our conclusion was, well, Josh, the only way for you to win is you shove every single card in your deck and present every single card. And maybe, because you're likely to go first, because in the Dory Mirror, tempo is very important, uh, attack him on turn 0, and hopefully you will end the game, in theory, with 1 or 2 cards, and he will end the game with no cards, and you'll be able to kill him quicker than his Tunic will kill you. Because actually, if you lose all your cards and still have Tunic, you still have a win con as a warrior. So we basically kind of did the math. We're like, yep, that's roughly what's supposed to happen. And yeah, so we're like, okay, we just have to pray that Max only presents like, if he presents close to 70, there's no way to win. If he presents like 65, 66-ish, maybe you can win. If he presents 60, then you should be good. And so that's the conclusion we came to. Went to bed, woke up the next morning, went to the top 8 area. They do a courtesy deck check there, so got the deck check there, and they just hung onto my deck until the match began. And so we play the quarterfinals, and obviously this was on stream. Nice cut there, mate. Just got that fresh cut. This is actually how I normally look, but this haircut is from Hong Kong. I have a dude in Hong Kong that has been cutting my hair for like decades at this point. So he knows exactly how I like it. And I always get it very, very short. But in the US, I cannot for the life of me find somebody that I enjoy their haircut. So what I did is, after I got my haircut in Hong Kong, I took a bunch of pictures. And now I'm just going to show the picture on my phone to the hairdressers in the US, and hopefully they can emulate that, and it'll be good. But yeah, this is actually how I prefer it. Like, for those of you who met me in 2021, right when I moved to the US. You might think that this is not my default hairstyle. But those of you who knew me from Hong Kong will know that this is my default hairstyle. Okay, anyways, so talking about the quarterfinals. So as it ends up, Max presents 65. I think he did not present the Amnesia, the Down and Dirty, and the Oasis. I think he didn't present those. He presented everything else. Uh, obviously, I presented all 70 or 69. I think my deck had 10 equipment pieces. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. We presented every single card, 70 cards. Even the infamous time snap potion. So we, as soon as he said he presented 65, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be this could be winnable, but it's gonna be really, really down to the wire. So we end up getting quite far behind on turn 2. Basically, I saw him block with a CNC. I didn't expect a second CNC that early. And he caught me with 2 D reacts, so we actually ended up losing our hit and run. We ended up taking a bunch of damage and losing tempo. But I think over the course of the game, we kind of recovered quite nicely. But there was a key moment in the game where I pitched a time snap potion, and because there's no deck shuffling in either of our decks, he pitch stacks a reverse combo, I guess. And then when I drop my time snap potion, he has the red Blade Runner, red hit and run. He also has the attack reaction to push over it. So in the game, you could hear me commenting that he drew it up like that, and he did that well. That was actually one of the highest level games that I played in a while. It's very, very nice to play against somebody that like really, really understands the game and is very, very strong. And it made me feel like, okay, there's some things that I could do to improve, some things I could pick up, and yeah. So unfortunately, we don't get there, but we get our gold foil. We get to go have a nice lunch, and we get to play some side events. It was very funny during the side events. Like I kept on getting pulled away for like, hey, Pro Tour top 8, come do this. Pro Tour top 8, come do that. I'm like, just throughout, especially around round 4, I was just like, I'm sorry, I gotta go do things. If we go to time, I concede. I'm sorry. So I had to like run over there, go do things, and run back, take a couple turns, go run there and go do some things, come back, take a couple turns. So sorry to my round 4 opponent in that sealed event. But yeah, so that's Pro Tour LA. We end up what was it? We ended up going to the airport directly from there. Like I said, this was very like an in and out type of get in, get out type of situation. We fly 16 hours to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong's great. That's my home. One of my homes. I guess I have 2 homes. We end up being there for a while. We go to a couple armories there. We say hi to Blue Pitch and everything like that. We surprised them because they thought, we had dinner with them right before I left LA, and I said, I'll see you guys in a few months. So yeah, they were quite surprised. Then we went to Calling Phuket. Calling Phuket, this I'll keep relatively short because I do want to get to like the main topic of today, which is the state of warriors, and we're gonna go through all that post-Dromi. But Calling Phuket was one of the greatest experiences. Literally, if you had a good arm, you could throw a football into the ocean from the resort. That's how close it was to the ocean. We ran it back with Hatchet Dory. I'll show you guys my list in a second. Why don't we do that right now? So, because there's some differences that I do want to talk about. So let's see here. All right, so was it F11? Yeah, F11. Okay, so guys, this was the Pro Tour list that I took. It was moderately heavily for Dromai. And when I went to uh, Hong Kong, I kind of asked around. I'm like, is Dromai popular in Asia? And not really, apparently. There wasn't that many Dromais around, apparently. Of course, at the calling, it ended up being like the second most represented deck. So let me just do a comparison. Let's just run a comparison here. So the updates were I added Crown of Providence. I thought this was a single card helps the Victor matchup quite a bit. There's also, I guess, some matchups where you're unlikely to get value out of Balance of Justice, like the Warrior Mirror. So you might as well run Crown of Providence. I dropped the Decimated Great Axe just for some extra sideboard slots. I added the Tunic. I thought that was very important. And I took out one AB, so I went down to AB2. So against Kano, we'd be running Null Rune Boots, Null Rune Gloves, Tunic, and Balance of Justice. But going down here a little bit more, so I added a Biting Blade. Let's just talk about the spice. We added the Biting Blade, we added 2 Singing Steel Blades, and we added a Route. And these 4 cards made a huge difference in the game. These 4 cards basically won so many games, like a crazy amount of games. And I think actually the count of these should be even higher. We'll go through that later. But yeah, so basically we added some spice, cut down on cleave, cut down on down and dirty here. We took out the lead with speeds. I thought this card is fine, but it forces you into a particular play pattern, which is not great. Added an Oasis just to be a little bit more unpredictable. Cut down on runner, so now we actually only have we added the down and dirty. So we had 3 CNC, 1 down and dirty instead of 3 CNC, 3 runner. And then we added 2 shunts just to supplement with our Tunic. We actually cut down a little bit on the Yellow Blade Runners. Cut down on That's All You Got. And our energy base looks roughly the same, except we added the Rippleaways, which were pretty good overall on the weekend. And we cut down on Warmonger's Diplomacy, which I didn't play any Azaleas, but that would have been a bad decision. So yeah, that's basically the differences here. So I guess I'll link this in chat. For those of you who were following me on Twitter, you've already seen this list, but here you go. Any tips, tricks, advice on keeping your mental game straightforward out through the nerves at events? So I've noticed that nerves from events come from 2 sources. The first source is being unprepared or feeling like you're unprepared. And that can obviously be fixed by preparing more and having some confidence in your deck and your plan. The other source of stress is when you have a lot of expectations on yourself. So this was what I was talking about earlier, like, okay, there's a Warrior set released. If I don't do well with Warrior now, I must be bad. And that one's a little bit harder to take care of because that's something that's like really internal that you just have to have that inner peace, I guess is the best way to do it. But basically, you have to realize that there are some things that you can change that are within your sphere of influence, and there's some things that are not in your sphere of influence that you can't change. So calming your nerves basically means adjusting or managing everything that you can manage, and hakuna matating or letting it go for things that you can't control, right? So generally I've noticed when I first started playing these major events, in between rounds, I would be chit-chatting with everybody. And I still like to do that from time to time, but I've noticed that in US Nats, Pro Tour, LA, World Championship, I've actually between rounds I've been a little bit more reserved, I guess. I basically set aside Sunday for socializing, and Friday and Saturday I was like, okay, I'm here to get things done. So that might help you a little bit, but that's gonna differ from person to person, right? Some people really need the some people really need the social interaction. Some people will do better without it. Hope that answers your question. Hey, what's up, Beef? Nice to see you in Phuket. Okay, so I guess that kind of summarizes or concludes the story time. Uh, let's see here. Okay, let's talk about our main topic. So the main topic of today is, let's just go back here. So the main topic of today is warriors in a post-Dromi world. Now, this is a very, very, very complicated topic because we have to, first of all, we have to analyze what happens when Dromai leaves in terms of the metagame shift. So I think the easiest way to look at that is to just, okay, let's go back over here. All right, so these are the heroes of Flesh and Blood, as it so elegantly says here, right? These are with the living legends. So this is, so actually Dromai should not be on this page, but that's fine. We'll keep her here for now. So Dromai, just like Prism in the past, was a gatekeeper deck. Now, for those of you who remember the best aggro decks of the format, such as Chain, well, Phi is still around, Briar, Lexi, they were limiting in the way that, like, okay, your deck had to be this good to even compete. Prism, on the other hand, said, I don't care how good your deck is. If you don't have the tools to deal with what I want to do as an illusionist, too bad. The greatest example of this was at Pro Tour 2. If you brought Oldhim to Pro Tour 2 and ran into Prism, you're going to have a bad day. You basically can't win. And we actually didn't see Oldhim get many living legend points until Prism left at PT2, or the calling at PT2. And so Illusionist has always had this going for her, or not going for her, but this was the main issue with Illusionist, is that certain decks did not have the action point economy or the tools to deal with what she was doing. Then comes Dromai. Dromai basically has a lot of the same things. If you can't deal with the board state, if you can't put pressure on her life total, because fatiguing Dromai is near impossible. Certain decks can do it, but it's really difficult. I saw at the Calling Phuket, several of the Dories at the top tables were trying to fatigue Illusionist, and they were barely getting there with like a couple hit points to spare. So it's not easy. Okay, so the first category of heroes that I think gets significantly better with Dromai leaving are the assassins, both of them. I know Arachne a lot of the times is considered a meme, but coercive tendency is much better than it looks. And I think if you don't have a plan to deal with Arachne's fatigue element, especially if you're a mid-range deck and you don't have enough defensive tools, you actually can get fatigued pretty easily. At one of my armories in Hong Kong, I ended up playing against a Arachne main, and it was very, very, very close. I think most of the spotlight, though, will be on Uzuri. Uzuri gets significantly better with Dromai leaving. The nature of Uzuri, the weapons are very inefficient, even though they have go again, so clearing baby dragons was difficult. You wanted to switch in your 6 power stuff, not be blocking with them. And Uzuri just struggled with dealing with 4 health dragons quite a bit. The more red line Uzuri list did do better, though, but it was still a very, very, very tough matchup. And I think maybe we could illustrate that with the... Maybe this is a better representation here. Okay, so everything that is green is... Oh, Jesus. Okay, let's look at March 2024. There's more data here. Okay, so as you can see, everything other than like Katsu, Dromai was favored into. And funnily enough, this used to be closer to 50-50, but then Katsu's figured out like how to play the matchup, and they've been doing better. But basically, the only bad matchup for Dromai was, or this isn't even a bad matchup. The only sub 50s are KO, Victor, and Katsu. And Dromai bullies a lot of heroes. We'll come back to the warriors because she bullies all 4 warriors pretty badly. So okay, so the first category here I said was assassin. Those get better. Also, I think heroes like Kano get a bit better. Dromai was pretty solid into Kano. Kano had difficulty dealing with the board state. Had a pretty difficult time dealing with just the massive amount of dragons. Like Thamai was brutal against Kano. So that's Kano definitely gets a boost. OG Prism was also kind of difficult, but I think we saw at the Calling Phuket Prism can beat Dromai if you pilot it really well. Another hero that gets a pretty big boost is Riptide. I know people have been kind of memeing about him, but he's not that bad. Same with Teklevossen, they're not that bad. It's just that there's a disconnect, right? There's Fab 1.0, Fab 2.0. What do I mean by Fab 1.0? Fab 1.0 was when you got action points by like... You got action points left and right really easily. So examples: Chain's Soul Shackle, Luminaris's requirement that if you pitch a yellow, you got go again. Lexi's Voltaire, easy double action point. Briar, Embodiment of Lightning, giving you extra action points. That is all Fab 1.0 design. Fab 2.0 design says, if you're not ninja or a mechanologist boosting, you're not going to get extra action points very easily. And yeah, so that's how you can kind of separate the heroes. The same with Dromai. Dromai also has a ton of heroes, or Dromai is part of that 1.0 where okay, we have dragons with I'll have go again if I play my sigil saws, right? So uh Dromai really feels like the last of the 1.0s looking at things. Like we've really entered a new age of Flesh and Blood, guys. I really can't emphasize that enough, that we're basically in like the fair and balanced, as James White intended, Flesh and Blood era. So that's actually really exciting to see. Okay, so Assassins, Kano, Prism, Riptide, Teklovos, these all get better. We've also seen a resurgence of Viscerai recently. That's going to be something to keep an eye on. But yeah, so if those decks get better, how does that affect Warrior? Well, I guess let's just talk about Warrior into Dromai. I've already talked about this quite a bit, but let's quickly summarize. Dromai was very, very difficult for all the Warriors to deal with, especially Kasai and Olympia. Bolton, you had the ability to high roll a little bit with the combo. If you played Raiden into Dromai, that was really, really tough. The original Dorinthia style with Dawnblade did not have enough go against sources to clear all the dragons and pressure the face. So that was also tough as well. Basically, if you made one mistake with your Dawnblade counters, you lost the game. Hatchets, I think, was okay into Dromai, but a lot of the Hatchets lists were using Dawnblade as a supplemental thing. So yeah. Lag still gives Gogen, yes. That is why President is very strong, but at least that is not unlimited Gogen. Dromai isn't technically LL until Friday. That's true. That's why that is true, yep. So they released the LL results on Monday or Tuesday, but you can still play her until Friday. How's your sideboard against KO? You basically bring in all the defensive tools, except Shunt. I prefer to play with Grains against KO. That's actually been a big talking point, is like whether you use Grains or Tunic. It's much easier to see why Tunic is good, and it's much, much more subtle why Grains is good. So when you look at your hand and you're like, wow, this hand would be nuts with Tunic, that's kind of level 1 thinking. You need to look at all the situations that Grains prevents. And that's because you have armor. Because you have access to Balance of Justice, Braveforge Bracers, Valiant Dynamos, and Grains, you can throw 7 at anything. So being able to throw 7 armor at something discourages your opponents from even attempting it. Also, you have the ability to block with a card plus Dynamos plus 2 block armor 3 times in the game. So you could go Balance of Justice, Valiant Dynamo card, cover up first CNC. Grains, Valiant Dynamo's card, cover up second CNC. Or insert whatever on hit you want, right? Third CNC comes, okay, Braveforge Bracers, Valiant Dynamo's block. And it's a lot more difficult to see why Grains is good, because you don't directly see the benefit. Your opponent has to play it a different way. For example, if you're playing with Grains, you're way less likely to get Terra Sundered. Now that I've moved to Tunic Shunt against Victor, I've noticed that they've been playing a lot more Terra Sunder. Whereas if you're running Grains, they don't even attempt to do that because you have enough armor. So yeah, that's the whole, yeah. Okay. Sorry for the tangent. I've been kind of, for those of you just joining, Josh has been traveling a lot and just got back, so he's running on fumes right now. Pure Decimator Dory has been good in testing this meta. I definitely believe you on that. I actually think with Dromai leaving, Decimator Dory gets much better. Link's Katsu has been very annoying. They honestly can ignore most of what Dory does. That is very true. Katsu is one of the most difficult decks to deal with. Funnily enough, I think Katsu's in a very good spot. The only thing holding Katsu back is that it's a very difficult deck to play. So let's just look at some of these stats here. So Katsu actually, I think Katsu's win rate is low because it's very difficult to play. Also, Katsu apparently is kind of struggling into these higher armor decks. Also, obviously struggles into Riptide. I don't know. I think just all these stats here is just because Katsu is difficult to play. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about what the metagame is going to look like, so we're going to see more assassin, we're going to see more fringe decks, we're going to see Kano and Prism kind of rise up. So how does that affect the four warriors? Well, first of all, let's talk about Kasai, because Kasai arguably alongside Raid and Bolton got the biggest boost. So Kasai, well, here's the thing is that like these two matchups, Kano and Prism, are actually still atrocious for Kasai. So here's my summary on things. I think Kasai will see an increase in play, but I don't think she's still going to remain the third best warrior. I think people will enjoy playing Kasai, but I still think there's a lot of fundamental issues with Kasai. And Prism, I think, is if Prism starts getting above 10% meta share, I think there's no chance for Kasai to do too well. I know Kasai won the calling at the Pro Tour. I get it. I know Hatchet's Kasai is a deck, but I think people will try her. She'll do well at, at the local-ish level, but I think there's still the fundamental issues remain. But obviously not having Dromai helps a lot. And Kasai does very well into KO, which I think is clearly the best deck in format right now. Yeah. And having high armor also means Kasai could deal reasonably well and high defensive tools could deal relatively well with the assassins and with Azalea. I think Kasai unfortunately doesn't put quite enough pressure on Azalea. This is a hero that actually I think we need to talk about more, is that like Azalea, I think as soon as Lexi rotated, people forgot about her. But as you can see, like Dromai leaving is good. Like the only bad matchups for Azalea, I think, are the Guardians. Let's see, yeah, Victor's pretty bad. So basically, yeah, Guardians, Dromai. So Illusionist and Guardians are the weaknesses of Azalea. She does well into everything else. So I think let's think conceptually why that's the case. Guardians have high enough armor, they have on hits to hit back. Illusionists play the game from a different angle. But in a straight up fair flesh and blood fight, Azalea has the advantage against a lot of heroes. You're excited for where Sir Bolton can be? Well, I'm also excited about Sir Bolton. I think he's excellent. Okay, so that's the TLDR on Kasai. Gonna see an uptick in play. I don't think she's gonna see a giant uptick in win rate because unfortunately, I think because Kano gets better, because Prism gets better, that's gonna be bad. But at the same time, Kasai does have some good matchups. So, also, oh, that's another thing to note: Kasai against Viserai. So the main issue with Kasai is she doesn't have enough speed. So against decks like Kano and Viserai, if you don't have or Prism, if you don't have enough speed, you're gonna struggle against all those. That's why decks like Phi, for example, will do much better against Kano and Prism and Viserai. Okay, so we talked about Kasai. Let's talk about Olympia. So Olympia got a new let's see here. New specialization. Here we go. Visit the Golden Anvil. And this is really, really, really this is a really unique effect, guys. Look at this. 0 cost blue pitch, 3 block warrior action, Olympia specialization. It says, as an additional cost to play this, destroy X gold you control, equip X weapons and or equipment from your inventory. So, my mind has gone to a lot of different places, but I think the most straightforward play pattern is actually going to be the best. So what is the most straightforward play pattern? Well, you look at what makes Olympia special. What does he do differently than every other hero? What is his unique thing? He can wager at reaction speed. Up the ante and prize Gallia are the ways that you do that. By the way, if you haven't checked out my articles on the Wraith Times, I wrote a 2-part series on Olympia. So if you are interested in Olympia, go to the Wraith Times, check out the Olympia articles I wrote. Has a deck list and everything there. Visit the Golden Anvil will basically allow you to get back your prize Gallia. I think you're generally going to be playing this for X equals 2. You're going to get back your grains. You're going to get back your Gallia. And I think the other 4 equipment slots, so Brave Forge Bracers, Valiant Dynamos, and the Hatchets, I think you're just going to stay the same. There might be a world where you could play with like a Decimator Great Axe or the Shield or something like that. But I think those are getting into cute la la land. I think the most competitive way to play this card is going to be X equals 2. Get your Gallia back, get your grains back. Because this costs a card plus your action point plus your gold. So this needs to be pretty high impact. So if you let's do the math. So if you block with the Gallia and block with the grains twice, so that's 7 health there. Sorry, 2. No, that's 5 health. Plus you get the ability to play the Gallia again. That's a really it's really, really hard to math how much that's worth. But I can tell you right now, the Gallia is very, very, very important because it gives you an additional gold, allows you to wager at instant speed, turns things like double down into a nightmare situation. So yeah, that's basically where I see Olympia going. If Olympia gets a weapon or Warrior gets another decent expansion slot card, we could see Olympia doing well. I don't think this quite pushes him over the edge of like, okay, now you're in like B- territory. I still think Olympia is not quite there, but we haven't seen the whole set, so we'll pass when we pass. This card, by the way, I think is one of the coolest things. I love the art of this so much. All right. Okay. So yeah. Okay, so let's go back to here. Okay, so we talked about Kasai, we talked about Olympia. Let's talk about Dory, then we'll talk about Bolton, because I think Bolton is actually the one that changes the most. So Dorinthia at the moment has several builds. The most prominent is the Hatchets build. And then I think Decimator and Dawnblade are kind of equal. I think if you don't know your opponent, there's a 60% chance they're on Hatchets, 20% they're on Decimator, 20% they're on Dawnblade. The Decimator Great Axe style, I think, does get better. Obviously, Kano and Prism again gonna gatekeep that deck to some extent, but with Dromai gone, you get basically if you were dirtling around in the past, you got punished by 35% of the meta. Now you get punished by like 15% of the meta. So that's basically the main difference there. Decimator Great X is I know quite a few people brought him to PT as well, so and did decently. So it's a deck. Let's just put it that way. As for Dawnblade Dory, like this is I was thinking about this quite a bit because in a weird way, if Hatchets gets popular, that's actually good for Dawnblade. If Dawnblade is really popular, that's good for Hatchets, right? Now, the only issue is that in smaller events, even in large events, like at the colleague Phuket, by round 4, if people are talking with other people, they know that you're on Dawnblade or Hatchets. Like there's no point in hiding it, right? So maybe for a US Nats or Worlds Pro Tour, maybe it's large enough that you could kind of hide your build of Dory for a while, but I don't think that's really an advantage, unfortunately, or tangible advantage. We've been excited for Bolton every season. Well, we've been saying it's Bolton's time for quite a while. Yeah. Can have multiple copies of the same armor piece in your card pool. You can. You can have 3 copies of Prize Galea. You can't have 4. Just like I know some dashes wanted to run 4 copies of Adaptive Plating, but you can't do that. I think Olympia will eventually get a demi hero that can only be equipped from inventory with this card. Sure, that would be cool. You can run builds with Crossstrap and Goliath. Okay, I like that too. That's also interesting. CYK Lionel. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you in Phuket. You're a great guy. Hey Josh, not sure if you already answered this, but in this format, which do you think is better, Dory or Kasai? I think Dory's better. I talked about the weaknesses of Kasai against Kano against Prism, but I think Kasai is in a much better place with Dromai leaving. Don't get me wrong. And I think a lot of people that enjoy playing Kasai are just going to enjoy playing Kasai. But 2 + 2 is less than 2 + 3. Also, which is better in the Warrior Mirror? Congrats on the top 8 of PT. So I think actually Kasai, like if you have Hatchets Dory versus Sabers Kasai, I think that's fairly weighted towards Dory. So you look at how the Kasai decks are built right now. They basically have 9 attack reactions, and the Hatchets Dory list has like, especially now with Hold the Line becoming mainstream, 15 D reacts. So you're basically never hitting as Kasai if the Dory doesn't want to give you the hit. So I think that's the main reason is that, like, okay, if you deny Kasai her gold and copper, which Hatchet's Dory is going to do very well, Kasai's going to struggle because she doesn't have the payoff. To be fair, I think there are also some variations of Kasai that are very strong that people haven't figured out quite yet. What type of variations of Kasai are you talking about? Because I'd be interested to know. Quick question: is Hatchet with Decimator as sideboard good? Felt Decimator is only good against Riptide if your build is based Hatchet. Correct. Yeah, I only use the Decimator Great Axe against Riptide, Azuri, and Arachne. The Decimator Great Axe is really good against Assassins if you have that 12 to 15 D reacts to back it up. Because you think about it, like Azuri basically has 12 swap targets. You got Already Dead. Man, I used to be able to list these out. Already Dead, Command and Conquer, Death Touch, Shakedown, right? So basically every single time Azuri wants to swap, you have a D-React ready. You might leak one or two of those on hits in, but it doesn't really matter. The deck, just at a fundamental level, does not have enough gas to deal with the Decimator. And then for Arachne, you just shove all your stuff in and play the Great Axe, and you generally get there. Coercive Tendency makes that matchup much closer than it seems. I actually, after playing against that Arachne in Hong Kong, who has been like an Arachne main for years, I was like, okay, there might be something there, because Coercive Tendency was guaranteeing I lose 3 cards from my deck. And then I noticed over the course of the game, okay, I basically lost. I played defense pretty well against this Arachne, but I still ended up losing about 10 cards from my deck. And I won with like 2 cards left in my deck, even though I fat decked everything and played Decimator. So I think if you mess up your defense once against Arachne, you can actually get there. So I know a lot of these heroes, Arachne, Betsy, Dash.io, Tech Glovosin, Max has been memed here, but I mean, LSS has been, giving them support over time. And like I said, the last of the Fab 1.0 heroes has rotated. So I think it's a good time to try it out. Just don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect, and I didn't spend a lot of time tuning it or anything, but it was a lot more smooth than you think. I think Kasai is very, very smooth. Dual Wield Warrior is very reliable. The only issue is speed, like I've said multiple times. Okay, so let's finish talking about Dory. So Dawnblade Dory, I think, gets a little bit better because people think you're hatchets, and then they don't put in all their D-reacts. That you might get a win or two very early in the tournament, just from that. I think at a tournament less than like 50 people, I don't know if you're going to get a lot of advantage from that. A lot of the events that I go to are like 15 to 30 people, so I think people would learn very, very quickly which build I'm on. But I think also, here's the thing, like, remember how I said that Dawnblade Dory is a big underdog to Hatchet Dory? I think you could build Dawnblade Dory in that it actually is much, much closer. Basically, if you're playing Dawnblade Dory, you need to rely a little bit heavier on setup and overpower. So overpower gets around a lot of the D reactions, and setting up can often make the dual wield warriors turn awful. For example, if you don't give them a chance to play Take It on the Chin, they might not have the agility source, or they'd have to pitch their Sink Below, pitch their Fate Foreseen. That's not what they want to be doing. A lot of them don't have grains, so they don't have an energy outlet other than Brave Forge Bracers. So I think that's a good way to do it. If you're struggling against these dual wield warrior decks, I think if you take a more setup approach, that'll be better. Because even if you give them full tempo, if they draw a random hand, it probably includes a defensive card. Like I said, they play like 12 to 15 defensive cards. That means on average, oh, sorry, I hit the mic. On average, they're going to draw a defensive card. So I think that is the state of Dory. We're still going to see hatchets be popular. I'm going to advocate for spicing up the hatchets list a little bit because I think the hatchets list currently is kind of boring. I do think it gets better when you're a little bit more unpredictable. This is something that I noticed in Phuket is that like a lot of people were playing the warrior deck as a math deck, and that's fine. But having the unpredictability, like unpredictability, is core to playing warrior, and you know, including some singing steel blades, I think is really really good. Also during the match with Max, we were talking about like, yeah, I think singing steel blade could be good, so that would be good. I'm actually gonna make a top 10 list. I'll give you guys a sneak preview. I'm gonna make a top 10 list for like spicy tech cards for Hatchet Dory. So, as the nice thing about it being a warrior man is I know all these obscure cards. I've played with all of them, so I'm like, okay, in this situation, what do I want? So let's go through here and add some spicy cards. Okay. So, I think Biting Blade is fine. I think this is more of my pet card than I think it is better in Dawnblade, but I think it's acceptable in hatchets, especially when you're playing grains. This could be a massive blow up because at the moment nobody expects +3 on the first attack because you're running in the swing plus Blade Flurry. That's what most decks are running. So, yeah. +3 on the first attack is good. Okay, next. Dauntless in Dawnblade could see a resurgence, especially the blues. Okay, Out for Blood, very similar situation. I think +3 on the first attack is something that most people don't expect. The only downside is that normally you're not getting full value. That's the thing. When you attack for 2 and they block for 3, that already kind of negates a little bit of your value here. But I think it's very important to have +3s because one of the most common play patterns for Victor was they're like, okay, I'm gonna block with 2 pieces of armor, and this will play around Blade Flurry, and that situation came up a lot. So being able to go to +3 is pretty important, I think. Where is Puncture? Puncture is very important. Well, for Dawnblade, not for Axis. Oh, here we go. This is the main one I wanted to talk about. Push Forward. In red and in blue, this card is very good. This card is partly why I want to play a full playset of Shift the Tide of Battle. So you think about the resource curve. So the best turns in Dory is when your tunic is up and you have an agility token. So you spend 3 resources on the hatchets. So you have 1 resource to go to somewhere else. So that's normally to your go against source. But I think in a lot of matchups, it's difficult to ensure that the second attack or any attack hits. And this card helps a bunch. And this has some trickiness, just like Hit and Run. It just says, if you've attacked with a weapon this turn, your next attack. Same with hit and run. Just says next attack gains dominate or gains +3 in hit and run sense. Yeah, I think this card, especially in blue, I don't think there's much downside. And having dominate effects also allows you to Storm Strider's wins. So this is why Route was so good. Is because this basically said your opponent was thinking we're playing this game of back and forth, but then Route just says, no, I'm going to take 2 turns. Kill you out of nowhere. You don't get to play your turn out. So yeah, this card's really, really good. Oath of Steel could be a 0 for 4. Theoretically. I don't know if this is any good, though, because it needs a hit. But maybe. Maybe. Let's see. I think you missed the first message about that. Or yeah, I think YouTube has been wonky because for like a section of time it said I had like 4 viewers or something. That's weird. What do you think about Emboldened Blade and Burns of the Past and Dawnblade? Emboldened Blade is excellent in hatchets and actually all styles of Dory. I think Emboldened Blade is good. Burdens of the Past, I don't think is the right meta for it. I don't think you're realistically going to get much value from it. Josh, please say salve to Rodolfo. Salve to Rodolfo. I don't know what that is. Need some secret tech, Josh? Well, I'm going through the secret tech here. Oath of Steel. Yeah, Oath of Steel. Yeah. I play push forward in Dory, Quicksilver, and Blitz. It was fantastic. Makes shift better. Yeah, so that's actually something I think is something we really need to innovate on. Is we need to be playing 3 copies of Shift the Tide of Battle. I think that card is just nuts. The only issue is that it's clunky. So cards like Push Forward do really, really help Shift the Tide of Battle to hit. Okay, so Spice card list. Let's keep going. Okay. All right, this is a hot take, boys. Slap Happy. Ooh, that's okay. Slap Happy. Take It on the Chin is ridiculous. If there's any card that's going to get banned out of Dory, it's going to be Take It on the Chin. Now, you might be looking at this saying, Josh, this card is like not that great. This card, this card might be good enough to play in Bolton. Maybe. Having an extra vigor token allows you to do some stupid things with no cards in hand. If you goblet and then you slap Happy, you don't need a hand to do anything. An extra vigor token can sometimes be cycled with grains or cycled with Brave Forge Bracers or yeah. This might, I'm going to try at least a copy of this because I think all 3 are kind of, obviously Take It on the Chin is like God tier, okay? But I think Slap Happy and I forgot the Guardian Brute one. Who cares about the Guardian Brute one? Is decent. Yeah. I think it filtered my original message out because I tried naming a certain attack reaction from. Oh, Snatch. Oh, is Snatch a banned word? Oh, that's not good. Thanks for the salve, Josh. Well, you're welcome. Oath with Shift. Oh. Okay. Oath with Shift. I could see it. Okay. Yes, Slap Happy so good. I play it in Bolton. Yeah. Like a single vigor token makes a big difference. Like when you don't have Tunic up, people don't respect you as much. But if you just have a vigor token, like people have to respect you more. And yeah, I think this might be decent. Slap Happy looks good in Bolton. Yep. I've never played it in Bolton, but I'm just thinking like, okay, guys, Take It on the Chin is ridiculous. Like this should be decent too, right? I tried them. They're not good without dynamos because they block for 3 with dynamos. Yes. So I think just maybe one cop. Like let's say Kano gets popular. I could totally see myself running 3 Take It on the Chin, 1 Slap Happy, just for that little bit higher density to draw a prevention effect before the Kano goes off. You can keep pressuring in non-tunic turns. Yep. Yeah, a vigor token is huge for Bolton. You can take flight, you could V, even though you don't have the you could dump it into Iron Song versus. It's real strong. Okay, let's keep looking for some spicy cards, guys. All right. Here we go. Here's a spicy card. Good old Steel Blade Supremacy. Now, this card, I think, is better against non-armored users. And there's not that many of them in the format. This card gets better when you start playing more of these Iron Song response, Out for Blood type of effects. I also think this gets better when you have Energy Potion on the board as well. Because if you want a really, really big turn, you probably need a little bit of help. So I'm not completely sold on this card, but I think it's worth experimenting with. Okay. Okay, now we're on to the yellows. I'm definitely going to add Singing Steel Blade, but let's see if we can find any other spicy things. Iron Song Determination. I think this is a card that we need to talk in a very, very similar vein to Push Forward. Coming in for 4 Dominate. I think most decks are not going to block, except Dynamo's decks, are not going to block 4 on your second Hatchet. This might be good. I probably Push Forward is better, but I could see this having some use. All right. Singing Steel Blade. We need to definitely talk about this card. This card, I think, is... if you're playing Hatchet Dory, I think you put 2 of them in. I honestly think 2 Singing Steel Blade, 2 Route is like gonna be the meta for Hatchet Dory. Let me talk about why this card is so good. At least 2 or 3 of my games at the Calling Phuket, I think there were 2 games where I attacked on turn 0. They blocked. I went Singing Steel Blade into Route. They started at 34. And if you start at 34 against a value-based deck, you probably lose the game. Also, this card allows you to shuffle. That's very important. It's kind of funny. Your opponent has to dedicate a lot of mental capacity to keeping track of your pitch deck, and you don't, because you know you play Singing Steel Blade. Via the Vanguards are unpredictable. Take flights as well. Yeah, you never know when you're going to draw them, so having an extra resource at minimum gets dumped into Iron Song versus. Wouldn't Supremacy have been great against Dromai with hatchets? Probably. We'll never know. Where's Edge Ahead? I think Edge Ahead. Yeah, that's something I passed over it because I wasn't 100% sure about it. So Edge Ahead and Lead with Speed are very, very similar cards. Um, this could get you Reprise if that's what you're looking for. Certain decks don't want to block this. You could set this up so it'll probably hit. It also blocks for 3, so that's nice. I don't know if this is better than Lead with Speed, though. So, that Dominate is bonkers. That's the card I'm more afraid of than anything. Plow Through. Plow Through. That's more of a Domblade card. I'm talking about Hatchet cards at the moment. All right. Any other yellow spiciness? No. Again, I want to reiterate. I think this card is pretty ridiculous. I think we should be going to 3 of. So we basically want to, like, Singing Steelblade into Shift is also good. Any card that supports Shift the Tide of Battle, I think is really good. So cards like Push Forward, Singing Steelblade, Out for Blood, even Iron Song Determination, I think is quite good. So let's just add this here because this card is actually, I think, going to become more and more important. This is not a spicy card, but the spiciness is running 3 of them. All right, let's see here. Unfortunately, I think that's all from that section, or the yellows. All right, let's look for some blues here. Emboldened Blade, this is a card that was played a little bit. I don't know if we'll have the resource or the blue space, but if you do, I think that's a decent card. Goblet, I think this should be a 3 of nowadays. I think we were playing 2 ofs for quite a while. I think that should be a 3 of. Blue Push Forward, I already talked about. I like red. I like blue as well. Okay, I guess we have to go to the generics because so beyond cards like Snatch, I think our blue base also changes a decent amount. So the number 1 card that jumps out at me, like if you're not playing Hold the Line, do it. There's no reason to not be running 3 of Hold the Line in your list. This is just really, really strong against a lot of the meta right now. 1 card blocking a Bloodrush Bellow Claw is pure dopamine. Ripple Away, I think, is also good, but we've already talked about that. All right, I'm going to move these down here because these are not spicy. I think Energy Potion actually might see a resurgence. Because if you're playing attack reactions, having an E-Pot is pretty important. Especially if you start playing cards like Overpower. I don't think we're going to see Red Overpower coming into play, but maybe. Okay, let's see. Warmongers, I think your blue base should include both of these now. In the past, we had to dedicate slots to giving Go Again, so we didn't have that many sideboard slots. All right, here's another spicy one. Blue Pummel. If you're running Tunic and you CNC somebody, Blue Pummel, this is, I used to pummel Oldims with Dory. This might see some play because with Tunic, this is quite good. And I think the downside is very low, but the mental stress is high. as a warrior, you always want to be putting as much mental stress as possible on your opponent. So they see you pitch the Singing Steel Blade. They see that you play route or heard that you play route. You have the E-Pot on the board. You pitch an Emboldened Blade that makes them scared to Arsenal D-Rex. You pitch a blue pummel. Everything together just creates mental stress. We don't want people to be comfortable. We don't want them to be like, oh, you blocked 2 cards. Now you attack and Blade Runner and attack Reset Dynamos. Okay, next turn, you're going to do roughly the same thing. Oh, Spoils of War into Hatchet, into Hatchet. Oh, what a surprise, right? The spicy cards may be lower math value than the traditional build, but you extract value from other places. Okay. Blue Pummel. Shout out to Nixie. Yep. Oh, last dish effort. I think a lot of Hatchet mirrors, especially, could go down to this card. So including 1 might be okay. I think you have got to be very, very careful with how many attack action cards you put in your deck because it makes you susceptible to Codex. But I think this card's quite good. All right. Any other spiciness? I think we're at the end of our spiciness. I mean, Heart of Fendel has seen play in some decks. I'll put that there as well. Yeah. Okay. So here you guys go. Here's your spiciness power rankings. Okay. So if you want spice for your Hatchet deck, here you go. Any spicy tech against Azalea? Tried Warmongers X3 against Azalea. It's not enough. This might be the this might be the play. Also, I think this I don't know how strong turning it. I guess it denies their alt, but yeah, I think it's just this. I trying to think. Azalea. So traditionally, how Dory deals with Azalea is they go for a big turn. You meet it with a card plus shunt, maybe some armor, and you shut it down. They don't get their ponder token. They don't get their endless arrow back. They don't get their on hits. And then you strike back with a very lean 3-card, maybe 4-card Dawnblade hand. You get a counter, you keep the counter, and then you snowball from there, using your life as a buffer. That's how normally Dory deals with Azalea. I know some people have tried to play very aggressively against Azalea. Like they don't run Shunt, they don't run Sync, they run Courage of Blade Hold, and they go with Dawnblade. I think that's not quite as good as stopping a big turn from them. But the thing is, with Hatchets, if you stop a big turn from them, so what? Your pressure back is not that much. So I think you need Disruption. Unfortunately, generic Disruption. Let's see here. Attack actions. Action. Will this give us everything that we want? Okay. No. Generic reds. Okay, we'll just go through them. So There are, I'm just going to add these to the sideboard here because these are the common ones. Amnesia, this was played against Katsu predominantly. We have the option of Bingo's cute, but I don't think it's good enough. Sensor might be okay, but I don't think it's very reliable. Command and Conquer is your best bet. Command and Conquer, Tunic Pummel might be the way to go. This card might actually be good. Because as soon as Azalea goes to a 3-card hand, things become very different. Okay. Does Erase Face do anything to Azalea? No. Yeah, I mean Azalea is kind of difficult to deal with now that you that I'm looking through the card pool. Like there's no warrior card that jumps out because we don't have on hits in general. Um hmm. Oasis might help a little bit, but I still, the main thing is that you can't execute the plan that the Dawnblade Dory has with hatchets. I'm trying to look for a solution. I don't think it exists. Um yeah. So how a lot of decks deal with it is they have reinforced the line, but we don't have access to reinforced the line as Hatchet Dory. Snatch? No. Yeah, I'm sorry, CYK. I'm really. Oh, I guess the main thing is unmovable. This is a card that I've been running as a one of in my lists for quite a while. Um, because against Azalea, I noticed that we generally go through a decent amount of our deck, and having a single unmovable makes a big difference because it allows you to shut down one of their big turns. Over the course of most games, Azalea probably has like 3 to 4 big turns, and being able to stop one of them is pretty important. So that's where I would look to start. I would look at red unmovable. I would not be looking at shunt. Red shunt is good tempo play, especially with the Dawnblade, but it doesn't really help once you go to 12, 13, 14 power. You really need unmovable for that 8 block instead of that 6 block. And luckily, Hatchet Dory, I think, has enough blues to support this. So this is where I'd look first, would be to unmovable. Yep. Yep. Warmongers times 3, unmovable times at least 1 is where I would start against Azalea. I think Pummel CNC may also be decent. Um. Oh, Ripple Away also. Yes, good point there. If you're not running Ripple Away in your lists, I think this is a decent choice. This was much better. This was there because it was good against Dromai. It was good against KO. It was good in the mirror. But this also stops all the Codex shenanigans as well, so that's decent. Josh, what I was saying earlier was I tried Kasai running that WTR card. He's talking about Snatch. E-Strike, some other card draw paired with Razor Reflex. I had decent success with it. Yes, I think being unpredictable with Kasai is definitely useful. Blue Peace of Mind. I don't know about that. Red Immovable against Guardian Azalea. Yep. So Red Immovable is, as a one of, I've liked for quite a bit. Do you buy into the argument that the biggest reason Kasai is worse than Axis Dory is that Kasai has to play around her power cards, whereas Dory gets value no matter what? There's several reasons. The first of all, it starts with like at hero presentation. If you present Kasai to me, I could probably predict 65 of your cards, maybe 70. Whereas if I show you Dory, I could be Decimator, I could be Dawnblade, I could be Hatchets, I could be a hybrid list. Who knows? So that's one of the weaknesses. And then the inability to speed up is also another major issue. And the fact that unless you're playing Hatchets Kasai, in which case you're losing half your hero ability, your damage output is a little bit lower against decks that don't want to block. And a lot of the metagame at the moment has well, I shouldn't say a lot, but a decent amount of the metagame can block your sabers out. Any tips for playing against Katsu playing as Olympia Warrior in general? Katsu is one of those decks that I'd recommend you should play as like 5 to 10 times. Katsu is a lot harder to play than it looks like, but it also requires a few things to line up. And generally they involve a lot of bonds targets in the graveyard. I think one of the biggest things that I can give to you is that blocking with your armor on their big turn is not the best idea, because they can links for tenacity, and now all your armor blocked for -1. So that's it's a balancing act, because if you don't block enough, they're gonna get Salt the Wound. If you start throwing your whole armor suite onto the combat chain, you just gonna get blown up by a double-digit tenacity. I like things like 1-cost reacts that let you play under Red in the Ledger. That's an interesting way of thinking about things. Is that okay? You think about the Azalea on hits. How do they affect Hatchet Dory? And then we try to play cards that allow us to play under those on hits. Yeah, that's a good idea. You passed by it, but Humble is possibly good against Azalea. Okay, Humble could, let's see. Humble. Okay, so this means they can't use their Azalea ability to give an arrow dominate. Okay. So I guess that is one of the major issues, is when they go pump, 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 swap in an arrow, then that's really, really that's the biggest disaster turns, right? Is when they go pump, pump, pump with dominate. So if they just go pump, pump, pump and send it, you're like, okay, block 12. Sure. Right? So sure. I like that idea, Robin. Let's add that to possible candidates to look out for. Well, against Azalea as Hatchets in Phuket, I just pray they don't nonstop flip for dominate. Yeah. Tried Ripple Away, but you need to connect with Azalea's buff. Yeah. Humble might be good, but it's a 2-block. Yeah. Ripple makes you soft to Codex as well. Yep. Censor is very, very good against Katsu. Yep. Name Bonds of Ancestry. Surging Strike. Exactly. My biggest play pattern against Azalea is just block when you can. Obviously, Warmongers. Yep. So, yeah, Warmongers helps. Unmovable helps. Humble will help. Pummel CNC, I think, helps as well. That's where I would start. I don't know if that will get you there, though. You could try an extra prevention effect as well, like Slap Happy. Could be decent. Yep, Bonds every single time without question. Yeah, Bonds is so good that I think there's like Graveyard Hate that targets Bonds. I forgot the name of it, but that's also a possibility. Okay, so we have talked about all the spicy cards for Hatchet Dory. Okay, let's talk about Bolton, because I think this is the one that changes the most. I think we were, and we're getting very close to a point where Raiden Bolton is very strong and possibly doesn't even need the support of sabers. I have long advocated for a hybrid Switch style Bolton list, but we might be at the point where I don't think you need that anymore, and that's very interesting. So in the past, I would be running Sabers plus or Saber Hot Streak plus rated. I think right now, Dromai was really rough for the deck, and other than that, you had to. In addition to that, you had to dedicate quite a bit of sideboard slots to play against them. Like cards like Celestial Cataclysm, you weren't thrilled. You never really played Celestial Cataclysm as a rated Bolton. But you're like, well, it's a yellow block 3 light card that has 7 power. We might as well put it on our deck, right? I think that's a card that we'll have to see whether Prism is a big deal or not. But I think there's a lot of extra deck slots that Bolton gets. And you don't even need to do anything too complicated anymore. I think just, you know, a stable, solid Raiden Bolton list is just going to do really well. Like, you can start including cards like Battlefield Blitz. I think this is a great tutor target. I've always been a big fan of tutor targets with Bolton. So Beaming Bravado, obviously very good. I actually think Blade Flurry, I think, is good enough because people block Luminas as well. So I'm just gonna like throw together a list kind of off the top of my head here. We'll see if it looks correct once we're done with this. Engulfing Light, good card. Have you guys been playing around? Any Bolton players? Have you been playing around with Take It on the Chin? Is Take It on the Chin any good in Raiden Bolton? It should be, right? Because at minimum it converts into a Raiden swing, right? I haven't been I haven't been playing a lot of Bolton since Pro Tour, but you know, I think this should be good. I've always been reluctant to put light cards or non-light cards into my deck, but I think it's decent. Like Slap Happy also should be decent here, right? Let's add a Slap Happy. I know some people have been playing around with Banner of Vigor. I've always been a bigger fan of Banner of Salvation. It's just mathematically good because you'll either get the one value from them blocking and pumping your attack, or you'll get the one value from healing. So I've generally, when I'm on a pure Raiden, I've been advocating for 8 bannerets. I don't know if we need yellow beaming bravado anymore with Prism or with Dromai gone. Same with Light the Way. Yeah. Bolting Blade is fine. Bolt of Courage is fine. So time to go back to Prayer Balana? I don't know. I do love this card though. Shift the Tide of Battle good. It's interesting. Did you abandon your fast combo Bolton with Oath of Steel, Glint, Blade Runners, Flame Flurry? I still think that deck is fine. But I think there's a lot more room to look at pure Raiden Bolton now. I've been grinding a Raiden focused deck. What it provides is more than good enough to be included in any bullet. What it provides. Which card are you talking about? The Take It on the Chin is more than good enough. My buddy is a Raiden Bolton main, and he has been liking Take It on the Chin. Okay, there. Okay, Slap Happy can be used in Bolton decks that include a lot of one-cost cards like Battlefield Blitz and Prayer. Yep. Shift is amazing in Bolton. Okay, that's what I thought. I looked at this, I'm like, isn't this good? I don't know if this is 3 of? 2 of? Let's say 2 of. Okay, Spirit. So we have quite a few non-light cards. That's something that's making me nervous. Okay, so let's keep our deck as a red-yellow deck and not include any we'll add some Cataclysms, even though we don't really love that card. Soul Shield. And Light of Soul. I've always thought this card was decent, but yeah. We'll add some Illuminates. Red. We'll add at least 2 red snatches. Yeah. All right, so we're getting close to, let's see, Tunic, Snaps. We got chest. Okay, what else do we need? We need some anti-Kano stuff. Halo. Think this is enough equipment? So this is roughly where we're at. Let's see. Yeah. Something like this obviously needs to get 6 more cards, but something like this I could see as like the future of Raiden Bolton. I think these heavy hitter cards are really important. Shift, Take It on the Chin, Slap Happy, Blade Flurry, all quite good. I'm wondering if we build the deck so it's less reliant on V. Because that's really the main restricting card is like, okay, you have to charge light cards. So like V is very good when you have a Snatch or a Blade Flurry. Because you could put them at the end. if you could like attack with V, attack with Raiden, attack with something else, and then end with Snatch, I think you generally get there because 5 or 6 becomes difficult to block. Or at least it gets armor, which is pretty important. Yeah. I think just maybe add some Sync Below's Fate for Scenes, and this deck list is pretty much there. It's only good if they block. What is only good if they block? Viewership surge when you started making Bolton. Wow. People like to see spice and like to see things created. Okay, so yeah, like I said, this is where I could see Bolton going. In the past, I don't think you could get away with this type of build against Dromai. So again, like I said, against Prism, I think Bolton will be like the balancing force. Okay, I think we've talked about all the warriors at this point. Okay, so we're not going to be playing any games tonight. I'm way too jet lagged and way too tired. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the chat and I will answer them to the best of my ability. I got some mail over here that I haven't opened. This arrived after I left for Pro Tour. So this is like a month old. Let's see what cards I ordered. Let's see. Mailbag time, guys. Okay. What warrior foils will we have in here? Oh. You guys are never gonna guess what this one is. You will never guess. I'm really, really rounding out my collection with these. Let's put it that way. We got the greatest warrior cards ever, such as Yellow Precision Press. Oh my god, so good. Blue Blessing of Steel. Oh man. Spice. What else we got in here? Blue Blessing of Steel. Yellow Puncture. Yellow Puncture. Oh man, you know that staple Blue Visit the Forge. All right, chat. Can you tell me what Visit the Imperial Forge costs? Not even a text. How many resources does Visit the Imperial Forge cost? We even got yellow Visit the Imperial Forge. These cards are very beautiful, but they're never going to see play. They are just going to go into one of those binders that has every warrior foil in existence. Oh yeah, yellow precision press, baby. Cost 0, 1, I think. Those are good guesses. All right, we got one more letter here. Let's see. 2? Oh my goodness. You guys just guessing everything, huh? Okay. It costs 0. If it cost -1, I still would not play it. Well, this is a little late. I had to buy one of these at Pro Tour. This is a good card, guys. It's Foil Spill Blood. Now I have an extra copy because I had to buy one at Pro Tour. Okay. All right. That completes Mailbag Day. Costs 8 because it's OP. The one that gives piercing, right? Yep, piercing to your swords and daggers. Literally, if it gave me a resource, I would still not play it. If the card said swords and dagger attacks have piercing 1 this turn, go again, gain a resource, I still would not play it. That's how you know the card is bad. That's actually a card, like a design element that they haven't really done, is that when you play this card, gain a resource. But with the next set, we kind of have that, where it's like, okay, if you've played a blue, then you get the other blue back. So, yeah. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Hey, Beef the Noob knows his cards. Swords and Daggers, Piercing 1, cost 0. Good job. I want Quicksilver Dagger to be good. Well, you might have to wait a while. All right, guys. We'll be winding the stream down soon. If you have any questions, you can leave them in chat. If not, you could wait till next week. What should I do next week is the question. Should I play some Spicy Dory? Should I play some Raiden Bolton? Should I play Kasai on stream for the first time? I know what will be the most fun. The most fun will be playing Olympia. But maybe we wait until we have a couple more cards spoiled. You could chain Mystic Instants together and get both back to hand, like Gauge in response to Gaze. Yep. Yeah, you don't have. You shouldn't wait for them to resolve. Yeah. You could stack them and let it. I want a Sword and Shield Warrior playstyle to finally be playable. That is one of the fringe Olympia things that I thought about with the new Visit the Forge specialization for Olympia. Is that you start sword and board or axe and board, and then you block twice with your shield, and then you re-equip your other weapon. Maybe. Play Kasai, Bolton, Beaming Blade. We're definitely not playing Beaming Blade, okay? I tried, it just does not work. Maybe it's better now with all the heavy hitter cards, but yeah. All right, we'll make a Twitter poll or something later on Monday. We'll figure out what people want to see, and we'll give the people what they want. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I am damn tired right now. I got off. I just flew back. Just got back a couple hours ago. But I was like, we need to stream for the guys. So you could play Talishar with Olympia in the new spec, right? Probably can. Shield in Olympia and then re-equip. Oh, Parry Blade. Yeah, that's a good one. Parry Blade shield. Block, 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 block. Re-equip Decimator? Maybe? All right. How have you felt about Fab this year so far? I think Fab's been in a great direction, great trajectory. I've enjoyed Fab probably more than any other time so far. So, I really do think with Fab 2.0, we've started to like see reducing the power level. I think is good. Let's just put it that way. What would you take to PQ Week 2? Ah, I forgot to talk about ProQuest. But okay, if I had to take a deck to PQ week 2, I would be taking Raiden Bolton. I think that is, my gut says Raiden Bolton is probably the strongest warrior at the moment. You might still need the combo, but I'm not 100% sure. The only issue with Raiden Bolton is I think you might struggle into Kasai and Dory, unfortunately. But I think Raiden Bolton across the board has quite a high power level. I also think you handle those fringe decks that are starting to see more popularity, like Kano, like Prism. That's what I would take. Raiden Bolton. Uh, play Dilk's Kasai list. Sure, we can take a look at it. I think Kasai lists are going to change a lot with Dromai gone, though. So, yeah. Raiden Bolton with Spirit of War. That's another card that I think should see more play. Unfortunately, both. Unfortunately, all of the. Let's see. All of the Majestics from Dusk Till Dawn for Light Warrior have not seen much play. Spirit of War, Beckoning Light, and Prayer Bolana. Yep. Any Bolted deck techs against Kasai and Dory? I don't. I think the tech against Kasai and Dory is just to run sabers and combo them. I don't know if playing Raiden against warriors is the best idea. What do you think Warrior will get from the third part of Monarch? We're likely to see something kind of off the wall like Levia's Demi Hero. A Bolton ally would be good. um, Light Dory could be on the cards. Yeah. We might see the third version of Raiden. We have Raiden, Beaming Blade, and then we have the BFS, the big effing sword. I don't know. Can't they fatigue you with combo? Yes, that's why you triple Lumina them. I'm thinking we see Minerva come back from the Demonastery as a playable Shadow Warrior hero. Ooh, that's spicy. Yeah, she died in the Morlock Hill, right? One of the very few purple warrior cards to exist. This is actually one fun fact. This is one of the very few flavor texts that references Dorinthia. No amount of retribution can allay the pain, the anguish seared into the souls of those that remain. It never said she died, she just got dragged through. Yeah. What about Hatchet's Kasai? Uh, I don't know why you need to play Hatchets anymore with Dromai gone. I would just lean more into the Courage of Bladehold effect on her hero ability. He's dropping yellow Fendel's Fighting Spirit for more attack reacts. Yeah, that's something I've always said about Kasai, is that they're not running enough attack reacts. I don't think 8 or 9 cuts it. I think you need closer to 12. Okay, guys. Thanks for keeping me company the last 2.5 hours or so. We will be back next week with something. We will take a Twitter poll and we'll see what the people want. For those of you going to ProQuest this weekend, good luck. If you are interested in getting some coaching, I do offer that. I do have a couple slots available in the coming week, so you can contact me for that if you are interested in that. All right, well, this has been Josh Lau with TheCardGuyz. It's good to be back. See you guys later. Bye-bye.